Josh Stevens.
MZ, Michael Zwerling.
May I ask you a personal question?
What do you have on the docket today?
Are you a felon now that you got a citation for being out and taking photographs or something of the beach?
I would say that, but the ticket is considered a misdemeanor, so...
Oh, okay, so you don't have to worry. First of all, we hope you don't have to pay it.
I'm a felony junior.
Oh, all right. What's the latest with that, Josh Stevens? I mean, are you going to have to pay it, or have you done any counseling on that?
So far, the correspondence I've received was they only sent me a letter that said, hey, we actually meant to cite you for 120095. They apparently missed a zero on the original citation, so that's the only thing I've received from the sheriff's office. So it looks like I'll have to take care of it, but I do have the advice of one of our own to help back me through this process.
Oh, okay. Well, if they gave you the wrong the wrong thing, number of what you violated, did they also give you the wrong fine?
No. It seems that fine is still
$1,000.
It's still a lingering threat. Yes.
Oh.
And who knows? We'll have to see what happens when we take it to court.
We shouldn't make jokes about that. This is a serious business. However, I think you've been screwed. Anyhow, we're going to start with the KSCO Hour 1 opening jingle. Are you ready?
I am ready.
3, 2, 1.
Good morning. A brighter day is here. Good morning. May we bring you cheer.
We've got time, we've got tunes, we've got time, tunes, and temperature.
Get up and go, it's today, you know, on KSCO Radio.
All right, we already know that we have the most intelligent audience in radio, KSCO does. I'm hoping we have an obedient, intelligent audience also that did what we requested them to do in the promo. Hope you've all seen the documentary, or some of you have, or whatever. I guess we'll find out more, but stay with us for the next 2 hours.
Good morning. Now stay right here on KSCO Radio.
I kid around a lot about never taking any personal responsibility for anything and always looking to blame others. But even those of you who understand my bizarre sense of humor will need to know that I am not joking when I blame the unprecedented, devastating coronavirus crisis on the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, not the Chinese people who are innocent victims just as we are, whether by innocent or incompetent mistake or evilly on purpose. Either way, I believe the CCP must be made to pay the world for all the damage it has caused. Think I'm too harsh? Please go to KSCO.com and watch the video documentary about the origin of the virus by Epoch Times investigative reporter Josh Phillip. And please try to do it before the next KSCO special this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, when Josh will join us right here on We Think Evil or Negligent People Should Pay Big Time Radio at KSCO. Without any further ado, let's welcome Josh Phillip to the KSCO Saturday Special. Hey, Josh, how you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, you bet. Hey, Josh Stevens, do me a favor and let that music go way down so we can hear the other Josh.
That's on your end.
Oh, I feel like a fool. All right, yeah. Jeez. Oh my God. All right, so talk about starting off a Saturday special with a king-size portion of egg on one's face. Oh well. Hey, Josh Phillip, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, now you're there way too high. So
Sorry.
Okay, I got. Now we're even, Josh Stevens, right? All right. So, Josh Phillip, tell you're a real live investigative reporter. I didn't think they existed anymore.
Endangered species, right?
Yeah, I mean, geez, I didn't think journalism existed anymore.
It's starting to seem that way, and hopefully we can change that,
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and tell us a little bit about your publication. Our KSCO audience is somewhat familiar with the Epoch Times because we've had Non-Sue on a number of times. But this is number one for you. And I'm actually beginning to observe people in the media talking about, hey, the people who perpetrated this should be held to task or taken to task, and their feet should be, put in the fire. Tell us, please, how you got involved in this and why you did this great documentary, which I hope a good number of KSCO people have seen already, because we posted it on our website a couple days ago.
Yeah, so my background at Epoch Times, I've been an investigative reporter since 2008, and a lot of my work, for at least 2008 to about 2012, was heavily focused in New York, investigating the Chinese Communist Party's front operations, United Front, Chinese Mafia, how the Chinese consulate was involved in these operations. Really some pretty heavy stuff. I was one of the first reporters to expose the United Front, which is the Chinese Communist Party's government department, that works on subverting overseas Chinese communities and getting them to basically serve as overseas branches of the Chinese government in foreign countries like the United States. How they're involved in drug trafficking, human trafficking, political warfare, political subversion, getting into influencer circles in different countries, different cities. Actually, I won a couple awards for that research, matter of fact. And when it came to this documentary now, of course, this is just very much in line with my work, because a lot of my work, starting with investigating the United Front, grew into the bigger picture of the Chinese Communist Party's systems for unconventional warfare. A lot of people talk about hybrid warfare, short war tactics. People talk about China, usually talk about unrestricted warfare, war without morals, business warfare, economic warfare, cyber warfare, culture, like taking over Hollywood, drug warfare, like fentanyl, supplying precursor chemicals to the drug cartels, the whole 9 yards. And because of, this background, when we, me and my coworkers, and we saw this virus emerging in China, and we saw the Chinese Communist Party start to even lock down different parts of China, notably at a very sensitive time for them, which was between the Hong Kong protests, the Taiwan elections, which saw a landslide victory against the party that supported the Chinese Communist Party. And in addition to that, the U.S.-China trade war, when the Chinese economy was already reeling, we know that the Chinese Communist Party would not risk collapsing its own economy for the sake of, say, saving 1,000 lives or something like that. That is not how it operates. And so we knew there was something big, and we took it on ourselves to look into it and figure out exactly what that was.
Pardon me, Josh, when did you notice that?
That was, of course, the early reports were coming out in December. February was when we launched our investigation.
Not long ago at all. Okay. Wow, it's amazing that you've come up with this documentary, which is so well done, I think.
Thank you.
Anyhow, amazing. And so I put the word out to our director of digital media, because I'm curious about if he has a way to monitor the number of views it's had, and hopefully it will be significant. But we'll see. Didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate it. And so when it comes to this documentary, we didn't set out to come to hard conclusions. I think not just myself and being a journalist in the media and following, every news story that comes out, but pretty much everyone in the world right now, where a lot of us are at home, a lot of people don't have work right now. Some people are in quarantine, some are on pseudo lockdown, and we're being bombarded with every story you can imagine. Sometimes the same news outlets are giving contradictory information. We've seen the WHO, one of the allegedly trusted, international institutions on this stuff, really just playing and saying whatever the Chinese Communist Party says. And we've seen the Chinese Communist Party on multiple points now being shown to have lied to the world. Even Iran is calling them out on it. And so what we set out to do with this was to basically sort through all the noise, see what we could prove, look into the different claims, and just present that to the world. And so we look into this seafood market, and I think we mostly debunk, or at least credibly debunk, the idea that it came from the seafood market as the original narrative suggested. We look into the lab, the idea of a lab origin. Did it come from this P4 laboratory, this virus research laboratory very close to that seafood market? And I think we show pretty significant evidence that that is very possibly the case, and that appears to be where international governments are now looking when investigating this. We also look into the idea that was it man-made, was it natural? We do show some evidence on both sides of that. We don't come to hard conclusions. My personal analysis, I think personally, just my own opinion, I think it was a natural virus that got out of that laboratory. But just because that's my opinion doesn't mean I'm not going to, show evidence suggesting otherwise, because there is evidence suggesting otherwise.
Wow. It doesn't seem to be overriding evidence suggesting otherwise, though, does it?
Yeah, well, at that laboratory, one of the main researchers there is this Dr. Shi, and Dr. Shi was world famous, notably for researching bat coronaviruses. There were news articles calling her the Bat Woman of China, and she was traveling to every corner of the world and collecting bat coronaviruses. Notably, one of her main, findings she was well known for was finding bat coronaviruses that could jump to humans without the need of an intermediary species, which it appears that this might be the case with this one, because China has not come clean on an intermediary species. They initially claimed it was the pangolin, which is that little aardvark-looking thing they have in different parts of Asia.
Yeah.
But that was actually disproven. The information they provided did not prove that, and so there's still the question of how did a bat
because apparently people don't consume those aminals, and they're not sold
well,
to the
they do.
market,
I think
right?
they eat the tails. I think they eat the tails of them. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, so what happened to that doctor?
Not clear, and it's bizarre. And we note this in the documentary because 2018, this virus lab for the Chinese Communist Party, where they have massive propaganda operations, and we've seen these even get exposed when it comes to them trying to manage the perceptions of the world after this whole virus. Chinese state media buying ads on Facebook, doing paid promotions. China Daily publishing China Watch in over 30 major U.S. publications, publishing the propaganda directly in a lot of U.S. news outlets. We had leaked documents showing the propaganda department was hiring, 1,600 new people just at one time to help spread their propaganda. 50 Cent Army paid Chinese internet trolls on YouTube, Facebook, leaving comments, Twitter, leaving comments. This has been exposed as well. But of all the, amidst all this noise, why are they not bringing out the heroes of the Chinese Communist Party, quote unquote, who, are the leaders in the international community researching viruses exactly like this? Why have they been dead silent? 2018, as I mentioned, they were at the forefront when it came to talking about things like the swine flu and different viruses. Why are they silent now when really, from a propaganda standpoint, this should be their moment to shine in the interest of the Chinese Communist Party? They're dead quiet.
Mm-hmm. Jeez. So what do you think is, do you have a prediction about what might lie ahead? I'm sure all of us would be very interested in your perspective.
Just repeat that last part, sorry.
Do you have an opinion on what you believe lies ahead for us? Do you think there's going to be more and more strife or problems between the United States government and the Chinese government as a result of?
I think very much so. At the same time, the Chinese Communist Party is reeling from this. This virus really, in my personal analysis, this virus could very possibly cause the end of the Chinese Communist Party. Their economy is collapsing. There's a lot of internal instability. People are very, very unhappy. You know, when you're a totalitarian regime and you've destroyed your country's culture and heritage and carry out human rights abuses like it's a daily routine, and then what is your hold on power, right? Your hold on power is really three things. There's financial interest, the idea that people believe that their well-being is better off not trying to overthrow you.
Yeah.
There's control by fear, which they have pretty heavily, and of course there are different forms of high-tech totalitarianism like these social monitoring programs. That's all to create that environment. And also the perception that they create that the party is able to make better decisions over their daily lives than they are. Because when you have a government that stretches its power down to the most minute, social decisions people make in their daily lives, that is under the belief that somehow is able to make better decisions than you do. And people are seeing in China that, one, businesses are collapsing, and so the financial interest is gone. Companies are pulling out of China. Manufacturing is leaving. Japan is even paying companies to leave China right now, as a matter of fact. So that's all going away. Trump is talking about banning the sale of computer chips to Huawei, which would just about destroy the Chinese high-tech industry. Manufacturing is gone, high-tech is gone. What do they have left? When it comes to the social stability, people no longer trust the Chinese Communist Party. You even have local government officials not supporting high-level policy. We've seen, for example, them trying to open up China right now, and local officials are refusing parts of that, even bringing in riot police to block people from traveling to work in some areas, and resulting in riots. And so, I don't think the Chinese Communist Party is going to survive this one. The virus, I do believe, is going to continue to spread, I think, well into the summer, in my personal analysis, because we are seeing the virus really never stops spreading in China, and even the Communist Party now is talking about a, second wave, quote unquote. We also know there are several virus strains spreading around the world right now, at least three. In fact, I think the United States still has just the first strain, if I remember correctly. China has the A and B strain, for example. And also a lot of countries are talking about, not just the United States, but a lot of countries are talking about investigating where this virus came from in China. And it appears now that the evidence is pointing to a Chinese laboratory. Washington Post has a story talking about leaked 2018 cables from the State Department, which actually corroborates our findings, saying that there were safety issues at that lab, that there was really high-level government concern that viruses could not may not be handled properly in that laboratory, and this could be a national security threat. It's coming out now. There are more and more articles looking into that, and that does appear to be the way that international investigations are going. And we can expect international lawsuits, to be very close behind those investigations.
Josh, Phillip, I've got to ask you this question. Have you visited China yourself?
I have not. So my whole foray into investigating China was 2008, when I was looking into the United Front programs. Okay. And I was getting quite a few death threats back then from Chinese agents, and it was not technically well in China.
It never felt comfortable for you to even apply to visit China, I guess.
Well,
I don't want to put words in your mouth, because
Times, yeah. Well, Epoch Times were blacklisted in China overall, anyway.
From day one, probably, which was about then, right? Or maybe it was 2010. Was it? When was it? When did?
No. We started. Epoch Times started in 2000. And
that's right.
We had reporters in China, but all of them were arrested. In fact, our editor spent 10 years in prison. They even tortured him. There were reports on this.
Gee, I wonder why they didn't kill him.
Yeah, serious, right? Well, it was because the international community, human rights organizations, actually were reporting on his case. Right. And the Chinese Communist Party, of course, they're not dumb. Even though they do terrible things, they're also not dumb. They know that killing him would have been worse for them, very likely.
Okay, so I don't mean to project myself into this, and the KSCO audience has heard this story many times. I'm going to make it really, really brief. I'm fascinated by your answer to that question, and somehow I expected that the answer would be no, you haven't visited China. I did visit China in October and November, end of October, beginning of November in 2018. And I went with a group called the Bay Area Council. And it was the first time I had ever been to China. I've always wanted to go, and for some reason, it just never did before then. And I figured, hey, that was a perfect opportunity to go with an organized group. And so I had to go get a visa. And it was real easy for me to, go over to the Chinese consulate here on Geary Street in San Francisco. And I stood on a line and I applied, and nobody told me that in the visa application where it says occupation, the last thing in the world you should write is broadcaster. So I did, because that's what I am. So of course I was rejected. And I said, what? I mean, and the head person, I don't know if he's the actual head of the Bay Area Council, but the head person running this trip of journalists, of just Bay Area business people, right? And their message, I found out later, was, we don't care what our president says, we love China and we want to do business with you, okay? That was the message. And so, of course, we were treated like visiting royalty by the Chinese government. And so obviously, I went. How did I get there? Well, the guy who was running the thing really, really wanted me, for I don't know why, really wanted me in the group, to go and visit China. And I did go. I spent 10 or 12 days there and was very, very impressed. I use the term impressed and depressed. I was impressed I wasn't impressed with the air pollution in Beijing, but by the time I made it to Shanghai, apparently it was unusual. The air pollution was not horrible, but I was so impressed with the city, the city that houses 26 million people, and there were many people in our group of maybe 30 or 40. Primarily business people from the Bay Area, and some politicians too, who, unlike me, it was my first trip to China. Some of them had been there 30 times before, and one of them was talking about the first time they went, the Shanghai International Airport was in a Quonset hut, So, but anyhow, I was so impressed by the building that had gone on in a very short period of time, and I jokingly but half seriously have said, gee, it seems like they could build a skyscraper-laden city to house 26 million people, to support 26 million people population in seemingly less time than it takes to get a building permit for a single-family dwelling in Santa Cruz, California, or San Francisco, California. And that was very impressive and very depressing at the same time. But as time went on, after I got back, I started reflecting upon how I needed the interception of the guy from the Bay Area Council who had put this group together, who for some reason wanted me on the trip, to get a visa. And they did finally grant a visa to me, but I looked at it and it was a one single visit only that must be done and completed within 30 days. Everybody else on my trip had unrestricted 10-year visa, unlimited visits, okay? So as time went on and I started, paying more attention, and I learned about Epoch Times that I'd heard of but never really paid any attention to, it sort of changed my whole reflection. From being one of admiration primarily to one of disgust and revulsion. And I've really changed. And people who know me, who have a different political perspective, think I'm racist because I don't like the Chinese government. And I made it clear in the promo that it's not the Chinese people that I don't care for. It's the Chinese Communist Party. Anyhow, So it doesn't surprise me that you haven't been there, but it's amazing how you can pick up an awful lot of information without actually having visited. So
yeah, well, we're in a useful position because we have a track record of not folding to any pressure from the Chinese Communist Party. And because of that, a lot of people in China know that we're the only media they can trust when it comes to these things. And so we get tons of leaked documents. We have sources on the ground, and we conduct a lot of phone interviews into China. And so we're able to get information I believe very few people can get.
Well, okay, so I'm imagining that it wasn't all that difficult to produce that fine documentary that video documentary that you did. It's almost an hour long, 55 minutes, something like that. And it is still available at KSCO.com. Very, very prominent. You won't have to go scrolling through anything if you want to watch this documentary, which I highly recommend. And I think we only have Josh for the remainder of this hour, which is about 28 minutes or so.
I had a question as well.
Yeah, go ahead, the other Josh.
Yeah, I was wondering, how do these journalists get out and about in the land of China and are able to bring back media? Like, I've always wondered about that. Like, some people, like, we see leaked videos all the time and all that, but I'm just wondering, how can they get imported to the internet when they already have a lockdown internet and all that jazz?
It's mixed. And, so for example, with Wuhan right now, some of the most viral videos, the independent journalists who produced those have since disappeared. For example, there was that cell phone video where an individual had gone. Actually, it was, we had got some video from him. Matter of fact, he went and filmed and showed inside this van, and it looked like bodies were stacked up, in body bags. And then went into the hospital and showed what the situation was like. Yeah, that person disappeared. So did a couple others who were independent journalists.
And don't expect to hear from or of that person anymore, probably. Hey, we didn't finish up talking about the doctor that no one knows. Am I correct that the female doctor is no one's seen or heard from her?
She's been silent. I personally haven't heard anything about her really since this whole thing began, although there have been a couple promotional type articles talking about her, trying to play her up as still the hero of China, but she's been quiet.
She damn well, but there's no reason to believe that that she's expired or anything, right?
Personally, I don't think so. I don't think that she would have been involved in. Personally, based on the stuff she was doing, I think she'd be more in line with the Communist Party, and they would more be likely to use her in their propaganda rather than the opposite happening, just based on the kind of work she was doing.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that your work on this documentary is making a difference? Do you feel that have you been doing a lot of interviews like this or elsewhere?
Well, yeah. My schedule has been quite full. I think across all platforms I've heard, of course, multiple languages, multiple platforms. We had, I think, 70 million views on it. And so, yeah, my inbox and phone have been blowing up these past couple of weeks. It's been interesting. And, of course, I've been doing a lot of interviews. And, of course, after we published the documentary, several news outlets did come out with their own, quote-unquote, exclusive stories that really corroborated a lot of our findings that, this virus very likely came from this laboratory. Very likely did. Although, lab origin doesn't necessarily mean man-made. It could be natural. It could be man-made. Who knows? But it does appear that is now the narrative, and that happened after.
I'm wondering if there's any way to ever prove that it was man-made. And if that is the case, I mean, I think everybody would agree. Well, no, I shouldn't say everybody. I was going to ask you if you've gotten any blowback. If so, enough people have seen your 70 million, that's incredible. What kind of blowback, if any, have you gotten? Because I got some blowback within my own organization here that I'll tell you about if you're interested. But what kind of blowback have you gotten?
Well, People are just funny in general. We didn't try to draw hard conclusions in the documentary. I think the most conclusive thing we had in terms of that was, opinions. I think one of the people we interviewed had an opinion that this was man-made. Personally, I don't think it was man-made again. But, just because someone has a different opinion doesn't mean I'm not going to let them have their voice. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, that's the way I am. That's the way I am, but that's not the way other people are, at least on the other side. They still do everything they can to censor things with which they disagree. Sounds like the Chinese Communist Party itself, right? I mean, that's the way they operate. But I said to myself, should I talk about this or shouldn't I? I'm not going to say who within my organization, but yesterday I got an email from someone in my organization who had heard the promo that we played at the beginning of this program. And they said, Epoch Times? ? They don't have very much credibility. And I said, oh, really? Did you take the time to watch the documentary? Or did you simply dismiss it because you don't think that owing to the attachment of something that you don't particularly care for, it's not worth your time to even look at the documentary? And basically, I had to press the person a number of times for the person to ultimately say what I expected would be said, was that no, he doesn't have to, because it's probably a bunch of lies, or she, oh Jesus, there would be no way to determine whether what was contained in the documentary was a lie or not. Okay, so it was very depressing to me, because there's so many people out there who do not have open minds at all. I love to listen to things from the other perspective. I enjoy it, but I guess hey, what happened to our guy?
I hadn't touched it. Oh, and it looks like he called in for a second, and then it just went blank
that's
again.
what I'm seeing. This is okay.
Here we go.
Here.
Hey, Josh, you back with us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We don't know what happened to you, and geez, I was on a roll there. Tell me how far back I have to go. What's the last thing you remembered?
Just talking about this individual who was questioning the credibility of the documentary. I mean,
only because hadn't looked at it, but all the person needed to know was that there was a connection with the Epoch Times. Okay, that's all the person had to know. And this is a person who loves Media Matters and thinks that that's journalism. Yeah,
well, Epoch Times, we were of course attacked by a few different news outlets, and their attacks on us were very bizarre, because it was mainly in response to our investigations into this whole Trump-Russia thing, where we, of course, showed, which is, now coming out, it seems, that, there wasn't really strong evidence of that from the get-go, that it appeared to have been a lot of disinformation that was spread through very dishonest means. And we pretty heavily showed the whole case and everyone who was involved with that. Mm-hmm. Some media attacked us. Notably, when they attacked us, they didn't actually disprove any of our findings. And the approach they took in attacking us was trying to tie us to, things that we have no involvement in, really using a lot of very sly tactics, trying to question our credibility by, using means that don't actually look at any of our reporting. And so, it was a lot of very dishonest means they used. And then actually with this documentary now, we're kind of going through the same thing again, mainly just with Facebook, though. The feedback from viewers and people who saw it was overwhelmingly positive. Overwhelmingly positive. And, of course, we show all the, sources in the documentary. Facebook came out and claimed the video was false. And their first one was based on actually an analysis of a New York Post article, not of our video. And it just so happened a few things. One, that the analysis itself from Facebook had a factual error, where they claimed that there was no evidence that there were security flaws at that laboratory. And, of course, right before they published that, Washington Post came out with these State Department cables showing exactly that. And then number two, it turned out there was a pretty serious conflict of interest because the person who wrote the rebuttal, quote unquote, actually worked at that Wuhan laboratory. And Facebook came out with another, of course, we made this point. We asked them to please, remove your false news label because it's not accurate. And they came out with another one today, in fact, and this one also has some pretty bizarre things in it. They're claiming that because we suggest that this could be man-made, that it's false. But they note, even in their own report, that we just show evidence both ways. We show it could be natural. We show it could be man-made. We don't come to conclusions. They note that one of the people we interviewed did say that it could, it came from, man-made, or there's evidence of being man-made. Again, that's her opinion. Doesn't mean we agree with it. We show both sides as the report acknowledges.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they talk about some of our data breakdowns, but they use a partial analysis. They only, for example, when it comes to looking at the alleged HIV strains in it, there were scientific reports that showed that. Notably, though, the scientific magazine repealed those because they received international pressure. And we actually cover this in the documentary. We show that this was released and then repealed, and then we look into it. And so they've used very underhanded means in trying to challenge the validity of it.
Okay, you're listening to the KSCO Saturday speech, whatever the heck the name is.
Special.
Yeah, special. With our special guest, Josh Phillip, who is an investigative reporter for the Epoch Times newspaper. He's produced an almost hour-long documentary on the origin of the coronavirus. It's a fascinating video that is available. It's been seen millions and millions of times already. We're doing our part to distribute it on our website, KSCO.com. We're going to leave it up there for probably another week or so. And anybody who wants to view this documentary, what's the documentary called, Josh? I'm sorry, I should know, but what's it called?
It is, tracking the origins of the Wuhan coronavirus.
Okay. So it's there for you to watch at your convenience at KSCO.com. You won't have to go searching for it. It's the first thing that hits you right in the face when you when you bring it up. If you want to call the program and talk to our guest, who is the producer, editor, of that documentary, of the documentary, Josh Phillip is our guest today on the Saturday Special, first hour. Let's hear from Colonel Terry. Hey, Josh Stevens, I need your help for some reason. I guess it is on. Terry, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're on. Terry, you're on with Josh Phillip. Go ahead.
Mr. Phillips, let me compliment you highly for your research, your erudition, and your obviously high intelligence at analyzing the situation. Let's call it what it is. It's the Red Chinese Communist government created virus. No question about it. And let me come back to other matters MZ mentioned. I call in to provide informed balance on KSCO because there is both left-wing brain bias, as MZ referred, that rejects honest information, but there also, MZ, is right-wing brain bias that rejects honest information from time to time.
Yeah.
Now, jumping to complimenting Josh again, the Wuhan Chinese virus evidence that you disclosed and elsewhere disclosed, the Red Chinese government military made it. It's a designer virus done by an authoritarian dictatorship that has no ethical constraints, nor any integrity, nor any respect for the truth and justice. It's acquiring greater power and wealth primarily for its senior party bosses and those affiliated with it. We should, again, there's the truth about Red China. And I'm curious what your big solution is on how we deal with China on this and how we address the virus they created.
Terry, you beat me to the punch with that great question. Damn it. But go ahead and please answer it, Josh.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you. I really appreciate it. When it comes to, of course, going after the Chinese Communist Party on this, I think it's already happening. Even Iran, which is one of their closest allies next to Russia, is calling them out on it, saying that saying that the Chinese Communist Party lied to them. They lied to them about how deadly the virus was, about how contagious it was. And of course, a lot of the Iranian leadership, notably, seems to be the ones really catching it and dying from it. When it comes to other countries, you already have lawsuits coming up. I know class actions in the works in Canada. There's class action in Florida, a few in the U.S. Even in parts of the Middle East, there are now class action lawsuits coming together. And so I think the whole world is going to hold them accountable. I really do think this is going to happen, and we already see it starting.
All right. Hey, thank you, Colonel Terry, for calling 479-1080. Here's our next caller, Marlene in Lake Tahoe. You are familiar with Josh's work, apparently, huh?
Absolutely. Josh, first of all, I want to echo what Colonel Terry had to say about you and the Epoch Times. I never thought I'd agree with him. But you have done, in working with Epoch, and I think you're one of the founding editors or whatever, from what I gather. But the work you do is just exceptional. The research and the forthrightness that you just, nothing phases you to expose what you have found out, whatever it is. That Russia routine against Trump was an amazing research project that your group did. Very, very impressive. Now what you've done with this research on the China virus, it's tying in so much with other research I do just to keep on top of what's going on. It just echoes what I have found out myself, which is very satisfying to me. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think of President Trump's response to all of this? Personally, I think he's doing a phenomenal job leading our country through this unknown territory, and what resources he discovered that were available to our country to unravel all of that and to put things in motion to help the American people. It has been phenomenal in my estimation. What do you think about that?
Well, first off, again, I appreciate the kind feedback. I'm not technically one of the founding editors, although I was one of the earlier staff. I started 2006, and so I've been with Epoch Times 14 years, mainly because I like the freedom they give me, and I like what they stand for. When it comes to just honest journalism. When it comes to Trump's response, I think he's done as well as he could based on the information he's been given. There are a lot of issues that the U.S. is facing, notably, say, shortages in medical equipment. But the context to that, for example, was that the Chinese Communist Party was telling the world that they had the whole thing under control. They said there was no human-to-human transmission very early on. And the WHO refused to call it a pandemic for a long time, even when it was already starting to spread abroad. They were, and also they were telling the world that the whole situation was under control, nothing to worry about, and they were even calling out people for saying otherwise. And so a lot of countries were shipping medical equipment to China to try to help China. And it turns out that while this was going on, China bought up something like half the world's medical supplies for an entire year. And countries that provided that medical aid to them are now asking for some of it back, and China's not giving it back. And in addition to that, they're shipping back very poor quality medical equipment that is really putting our frontline health workers at risk. And so,
and in fact,
problem... yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, in fact, I heard they were selling it back to the countries that was giving it to them, which to me is appalling, and sending them the rejected materials, things that were malfunctioning or poorly made with poor quality, different things. So, I mean, it's amazing what China's done.
Yeah, it's even worse than that, where they're making countries that receive it now praise China. There was an issue in France, for example, where they were trying to say in exchange for it, France had to use Huawei 5G, which is China's major telecommunications company. And
Right.
again, when it comes to Trump, of course, I think he did act better than most countries. He, of course, restricted travel from China pretty early on, even though he got criticized for it. Different governments, they can only act on the information they're getting, and it just so happened WHO was repeating a lot of the lies from the Chinese Communist Party, and the CDC was just...
By design, don't you think?
Yeah.
By design.
It does seem so, and that's currently being investigated.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Marlene,
Yeah,
thank you for calling 479-1080.
Sure.
We appreciate it. Got
Thank you,
a full board of callers here.
And then one quick thing, I was wondering what constitutes defective medical equipment. Could you elaborate on that some more, Josh?
Yeah, a few different points. So Czech Republic and Spain, I believe it was. No, Spain or Italy. Forgive me for not remembering exactly which one. Spain or Italy and Czech Republic. They were finding that the Chinese test kits, for example, were only reliable about 20% to 30% of the time. They had a 70% to 80% failure rate, and so they weren't diagnosing people. They found that a lot of the masks that were being shipped from China could not actually protect people, that they were defective masks. There were videos going around, for example, in different parts of the world of doctors getting medical garb, and it's literally falling apart in their hands, falling apart as they use it. There have been a lot of cases of this in just about every part of the world, including in the United States, where defective medical gear being shipped from China that is unsafe, unreliable, can't protect people facing this virus, and that's what we're being given. And now, of course, this is causing supply chain issues, and luckily countries like Taiwan, countries like Thailand, even South Korea are getting involved now and trying to, manufacture this equipment for the world and, hopefully help relieve some of that pressure.
All right, thanks, Josh Stevens, for that question. Let's go back to Dan in Pacific Grove, whom I had already selected. But Dan, you're on the air now on KSCO.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. Hey, Epoch Times subscriber, quite a long time, an excellent news source. I have one question for you, Josh. In the course of your research, did you come across any foreign investment in that lab in Wuhan, that research lab, particularly from the United States, from individuals or organizations? If you did, were able to determine how engaged any foreign entities or non-Chinese entities were involved in the work at that lab?
Yes, I did uncover. There are public cases. In fact, this is public information that yes, the United States did have some investment programs in that laboratory. There were also some research cooperation programs with different U.S. universities and international organizations working with that laboratory. I didn't dig too far into that because for the sake of that documentary, we wanted to just focus on where can we find the origin. So we didn't go into too many tangential lines. Although, honestly, the international cooperation on that could be a whole story in itself. That could be a whole thing in itself because it does seem this is a very big issue. And it raises a lot of issues as well now about, for example, this Harvard professor, Charles Lieber, the head of the Harvard chemistry department, who was, of course, found he was getting paid by the Chinese Communist Party under its 1,000 Talents program. Notably, two individuals were charged alongside him. One of them was a Chinese individual, Chinese national, who was with the Chinese military, the PLA. Another one was trying to transfer 21 vials, I believe it was, of an unknown biological substance. And so the issue of academic espionage is a very big issue. It may tie into this. Individuals getting paid through the 1,000 Talents program. They have other programs, like the Torch program, 973 program, 211 program, also involved in things like this. I think that could be a huge, huge thing to investigate as well. And also a lot of think tanks, a lot of universities do have joint research projects with different Chinese labs. That lab notably is under the Chinese Academy of Sciences, which has its hands in just about every pot in the world. And so, I mean, it could be this could be a lot bigger than what we're seeing. It is possible, but I haven't looked into that very strongly yet, not as strongly as I'd like to, other than just reading surface news.
Well, I'll be watching Epoch Times for updates and further information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pacific Grove Dan. Our next caller, will be, take next. That is Lee and Spreckles about COVID reporting and so forth. Go ahead, Lee, you're on.
Good morning. Well, it's a good morning because the truth is trickling out. As I came to you on this program in the first time about Francis A. Boyles, people need to look up and find out who he is, because he cited a news article out of the North Carolina, nearest the University of North Carolina, 2015, Obama administration releasing this activity to China. He is just spot on when he brought it to Alex Jones. If people need to go to ban.video or newswars.com or infowars.com, because that's just the first step. What this whole thing needs to be looked at as we're on this road from in the start till now. How did this get? What is this? All of it? And then
there's a huge story, obviously, Lee. But thanks for calling. We got to move on. We got a full board here. Andres in Royal Oaks, you have a question for Josh and me. Andres.
Oh,
Andres?
Is he not here?
Well, okay, going once, going twice.
Put him back on hold?
Okay, no, he's gone. Chuck and Salinas, comments on World Health Organization?
Yeah, you kind of touched on it while I was waiting. I heard comment about the great show, by the way.
Thank you.
The WHO.
Well, I got a great guest, so.
Yeah, true. And I just recently subscribed to the paper and just great articles. But the WHO, it's amazing the cover up there, or just what they're doing to praise China in this, and just read where Angela Merkel was praising the WHO for their work, and it's just amazing. But to touch on another point, in last week's paper, you had a topic on the depression that's going to hit people that have been just affected by this virus, and the suicide rates going up, and that was a great article too. And just people forget about what it's really doing to people's normal lives and how it's affecting their daily lives. And the WHO has done no favors for this world right now.
Okay. All righty. Thank you for your comments, Chuck and Salinas. Looks like Andres is called back, so let's give it another try.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. Were you talking and we weren't hearing you?
Yeah, I was trying to contact you anyways. The quick question for him is HIV connection. Has that been a credible thing within the genetic code from what you have found? And do you think there might be, if that's credible, do you think there might be a connection to the scientist a few months ago, maybe about a year ago in China, who claimed to have created or cloned a few Chinese babies with HIV resistance?
Yeah, so a couple points on that. Yeah, that research was very controversial because it was a Chinese scientist editing the human genome. And that actually ties into the bigger picture of why, unfortunately, a lot of international organizations do work very closely with China on its scientific programs. It's because they don't have moral restraints. I mean, and these research...
Hate to do this. We're coming up on the top of the hour in the news. I hope you can stay over for a little bit, a few minutes, just to properly close out.
I can do that.
Great. Fantastic. You're listening to KSCO.
To range in the mid to low 60s, and those overnight temperatures remaining in the upper 40s. Taking a look at temperatures throughout select hot spots. It's currently 59 right now in Soledad, 59 in Salinas, 48 over the Summit, and 59 right now in San Jose. Time now for hour number 2 of the Saturday special. This is AM 1080 KSCO.
Oh, hello, darling. I hate to hang up on you, but I'm sorry, baby, but I have to go. It's time for that wonderful record show. I'd love to visit, but you'll have to call back.
Josh, Phillip had another engagement, so unfortunately he had to take off, but we're still interested in continuing the topic, so call in.
I'm sorry, baby, but I really gotta go to KSCO Radio. Bye.
We will continue with Andres, who is back on. Andres, sorry, had to chop you off before, but the news is nothing's more important than the news.
Right. I wish the Epoch Times had a radio news service that you guys could use. I don't think they're into that though.
They might be.
Oh, I haven't looked into that. I'm not a subscriber, but I've seen a lot of their work. I've seen their videos, and I've seen other people's copies of the newspaper. It's good stuff. Personal question for both of you, Josh and MZ.
Josh is gone. Yeah, he had to go, but so it's just for me.
Oh, Josh Stevens, though?
Oh, me. Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
The first one for Josh, just think about it, don't answer it yet. How far are you willing to take this citation, this misdemeanor citation? Are you looking to just get it waived, or do you want to fight it against the agency that did this to you if you have an opportunity to claim some sort of a civil rights violation under the 14th Amendment or the 9th Amendment? Just a question to think about. And then MZ, yeah, right? I mean, that could involve starting a, what do they call them, a justice fund or a legal fund to help you get some. I know you already have a lawyer, but get some more lawyers on your side in case it gets big. MZ, you asked in your promo you didn't ask. You said that China should pay, right? And your guest said that one of the ways China will be paying, it seems like, will be through international lawsuits. Taking that to its end game, it sounds like it's going to lead to a situation much like after World War I, when Germany was made to pay for all their bad actions, reparations. It just put Germany into a state of perpetual bad economics. I've heard big numbers for these lawsuits, trillions of dollars against China in either sanctions or lawsuits. How would anything like that help the people of China get out of the situation they are in? I haven't been to China, but I've seen the bodies in real life, the dead bodies of the prisoners up in San Francisco when they had them on tour. How would sanctions or lawsuits help the Chinese people? And is that the type of payment you would accept, MZ, or the people in general out there? What kind of payment would be an acceptable payment from China if it turns out they had responsibility in this virus outbreak, whether it was from neglect or intentional release?
Financial consequences. They either would pay like other entities that lose lawsuits pay, and in their particular instance, it's my understanding that they are owed quite a bit of money from this country and many other parts of the world. And what happens if they won't pay, then because they won't or they can't, people just don't pay them? Real simple.
Okay. So it would be sort of like a cancellation of debts they had been holding for other countries. Okay.
Including and especially us.
Well, let's think about that one for a second, because there are some deals that China has with other countries, namely third world countries, where they offer, out of the kindness of their hearts, the ability to build seaports and everything of the like on that country's land. And once that country fails to make the payments, then China basically gets a 99-year lease or something of the like to own that port. So they're able
mainly in Africa, right?
Yeah, that's mainly in Africa, yes.
And this virus is mainly affecting Africans or predominantly affecting Africans at a higher rate. So that would be a good a good leverage tool, I guess. But I think, I would accept, the only payment form that I would accept as an individual from China would be a complete regime change in China. Put Taiwan in charge to start.
That might happen naturally. From if the other Josh was here, he would probably. That's pretty much what I heard him say last hour. Don't you think?
He's saying that that's going to happen organically.
Maybe I was hearing wrong, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, I don't see the pathway to that happening on its own because of the stranglehold that China has on the global community, on all the different systems and entities that have.
And on the news media here.
Not just the news media, the university system, the UC system, Hollywood. It's, when Kissinger came out the other week and he said that there's a shift happening in the global order. You remember that article that came out?
No, but go ahead, elaborate, please.
I think alludes to a power struggle. It's as if they just took out some big capo, some big cartel head, and now everybody is flexing their power muscle to show who the next leader of the world order is going to be. That's what it seems like everyone is acting like. I think that.
Interesting you say that. I see that. I see that in the form of the governors, including our own, and including that I'm not going to use the C word, but that's what I think.
See you next Tuesday from Michigan?
Yeah. I'm sorry. That's what they're all doing. They're flexing their muscles, and I wasn't connecting it with the New World Order or globalism, because I think this is leading to de-globalization, and I'm very happy about that.
That's the way we see it. George W. Bush, his center, he's still around painting dinosaurs in a bathtub or something, but the official George W. Bush Center came out recently, yesterday or the day before, saying that globalization is the cure for COVID. So they're still in their delusion. They still want to push their agenda. The West Coast governors are all. Go ahead.
They're right, except they needed to put the DE prefix.
Oh,
in front of globalization. Otherwise, everything was right, but deglobalization is the answer, and that I believe could very well be the primary and principal silver lining for this whole crisis.
All right. Well, good luck to you. Good luck to Josh.
Did you want to hear my answer, Andre?
Yes. I am mentally sending you big avocado vibes right now.
Oh man, I love avocados. That is so kind of you. But
I always send. I use emojis on the. I have a friend who uses emojis a lot, and so it's sort of rubbed off on me. I'm using emojis a lot, and when I'm happy about something, I put a smiling face and a thumbs up and a piece of an avocado. And people are asking me, what the hell is this avocado emoji stuff? And I said, I like avocados. Don't you?
Nice. Well, you got to be careful with the use of the thumbs up, because sometimes that thumbs up is designed to mark a sarcasm. And the reason why is because Facebook, on their Messenger app, they have this little button that it's either the send button, but if you don't type anything, it'll allow you to just send a thumbs up as big or as small as you want. So that's been known to be used as a sarcasm symbol. So watch out.
Blowing you off kind of thing, like full story, bro. Anyways, what's your story?
Okay, bro? So my answer to your question is that, like, I've honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to going to the civil rights violation stance. I mean, the thought of lawyering up is very appealing, like not just one, but multiple, as you mentioned. However, part of me also just wants to get this over with. But at the same time, I've been walking away towards that sentiment, especially after hearing the story of one of my friends getting ticketed just because they were walking their dog near SoCal High, and they walked onto the park when they implemented the whole parks ban. And so it was just like, that right there is a gross violation. And I feel if I hear more stories of people getting tagged for doing no wrong, then yes, I do get encouraged to move towards the taking a broader stance on it, as you might suggest. But prior to that, I just wanted to get it over with. But the more stories I hear, the more powerful and more encouraged I get over the matter.
Yeah, I want to push you in that direction too, Josh. And by the way,
go ahead.
Here at World Headquarters, I have learned that, let's see, almost 11 hours and 17 minutes ago, Mayor London Breed, her proclamation went into effect. And that is, you had better not be seen in San Francisco outside of your house without a mask. Or
else.
Or yeah, I assume the or else is, what happened to Josh. But who knows? Maybe it's worse up here. Maybe it's the death penalty. Maybe it's execution. Who knows?
Maybe they won't use.
Maybe they'll force you to clean up those streets of San Francisco that desperately need to be cleaned.
So anyhow, and I don't have a mask. I'm looking around. I don't even have a damn handkerchief or a bandana. Maybe I have a smelly old T-shirt.
Santa Cruz is next.
I don't know. I have to figure out. I do not want to not go out because I have to do my 5 to 7 miles of walking every day, or else for me, my health and so forth. And it's my understanding that chances are, if I dare do it without some sort of mask, that I'm going to be in the same boat with Josh here.
It's possible, yeah. And that's the thing to think about as well. What I've noticed is San Francisco, every time they implement something, Santa Cruz is about maybe 1 to 2 days off. So now that you guys have that mask implementation, we're next. We're probably going to be asked to do that. And it's like, where can we even buy them?
See, these egomaniacal mayors and governors and are flexing their muscles, trying to show how powerful they are. Because when are they going to get another chance to make an edict like this that affects so many, has such sweeping effects on so many people?
And it's not just monkey see, monkey do. Our own health officer in Santa Cruz has said that she works with 13 other county health officers in the Bay Area. So they get together, they set the agenda, and then they implement it. So it's not just, they do it in San Francisco and then we're going to be doing it next.
Also, another thing that with the health officers, like, does this irk anyone else, or is it just me, the fact that these health officers aren't elected officials yet? They're
right, like Dr. Mandela or Mengele, whatever that. Anyways, yes, they are not elected. They're getting around it by use of unlawful enforcement of. You'll fight it, dude. Just fight it in court. I give you all the support that you need, that I can give. Fight it, you'll win. The more I hear about your story, the more it sounds like you'll win. Open, shut case. They refuse to look at your papers that you had with you, so even by their rules, you were following what you had to be doing, and they didn't look at your essential papers, and now you're saying they cited you with the wrong code. So I would turn it around and use this against them for sure.
Josh, I wonder if it would have been different if you would have been in the KSCO van.
Oh, it would have been different, all right. It would have
they
the
would
label.
have popped the tires. They would have popped the tires on the van too.
No, the law enforcement people like KSCO because we treat them right and they know it.
And we have the most resilient emergency alert system in the county, since we have backup power and everything of the like that other stations don't have.
Right.
Then why are they being such jerks about it? Why are they acting like this?
Well, I feel like that particular officer was just trying to reach his quota, because he did not care about anyone's story. Like the 2 other cars that were parked there, the old man, the other guy just in his car by himself reading a book, just all that. He didn't care. He was like, here's a ticket, here's a ticket, here's a ticket.
What's the guy's name?
I don't have the ticket on hand, so
if you had it, would you have the guts to say it on the radio for
I wouldn't mind
to hear?
I wouldn't mind, yeah. Well, I actually have a digital copy I could probably fetch, so then we
Why
could...
don't you find out, and we'll at least put the name out.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Andres, thank you very much for calling 479-1080.
You're welcome.
And thank you for the support.
And it looks like we have Jaunty here, not just a Jaunty, the Jaunty.
Hey, MZ.
Hi, Jaunty. I'm afraid to ask you publicly how many people watched the video, so I won't. You can tell me privately.
I don't know right now. Let's just call it. Let's round up slightly and say about 2 million.
Okay, good, excellent. I'm happy to hear that. A little disappointed that it wasn't 3 or 4 million, but whatever. So what's new in the world of KSCO and ZBS digital media?
Well, before we go into anything else, MZ, I want to just say to the audience out there that if you're enjoying today's show, if you like this sort of content, if you appreciate the hard work that MZ is doing to bring these topics into a public forum, then please take a moment, go to SaturdaySpecial.com, sign up for the newsletter, follow the YouTube channel, and stay a part of the conversation. You know, after we go off the air, the show doesn't end. There's still lots of ways to participate and keep our minds going. So please do take a moment. That's SaturdaySpecial.com.
By the way,
by the way, I found the badge number, but not the name.
Oh, okay. Well,
but I can still call that out if you'd like.
Why don't you just find the name? You can next week we'll put it out or some other time. Why don't you find out who it is, and we'll it's just public information. It's a public, the citation is public, so we just want to put out the name of the person who gave Josh and the other 2 people a nasty old citation that could cost them a lot of money
and possibly jail time.
Yeah. So anyhow, so Jaunty, what were we saying? I forgot.
Oh no, I mean I was just pitching the Saturday special.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. See, there's something wrong with my brains. If Jaunty is doing something so noble that I forgot what it was that he was doing, and it's so noble and it involves so much of me.
Well, MZ, I think that you're doing a great public service here by getting this conversation out there and giving people an opportunity to chip in. I said to some friends of mine the other day, I said, we're at the phase in this whole thing where things start to get weird. And the next day, I've heard about this demonstration out in Michigan, and I responded back to them. I didn't think it would take. I didn't think it would happen this fast. So.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jaunty. I want to call my friend Char in Michigan and get her take on this whole thing. That gives me a great. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll type in Char's secret number, Josh, and you can call and get her on the VIP line. Okay. But go ahead, Jaunty. Sorry.
We're dealing with a problem that requires a collectivist solution, and we live in a country that idealizes individualism, and so part of making a collective decision usually involves authority. You usually have a bunch of different authorities who come out and try and wake everybody up to the collectivist idea that we all need to adhere to in order to solve the problem. It's not a surprise that you have overreach in that circumstance. There's whenever you have authority, there's a degree of overreach. And honestly, I was rather impressed with the response of the governor in Michigan, because what she said was these folks absolutely have a right to protest. Let them have their demonstration. She really could have done the wrong thing there. She could have said, no, we need to arrest all of these folks right now. She could have called in the National Guard or something crazy. And that really would have been the wrong thing to do. That would have been the authoritarian response that would have spiraled things in a very dark way. But, you know, honestly, I thought that whole incident, in spite of some of the folks, you know, flying some flags, the flag of Kekistan, if anybody knows what that is, you know, that's the guy up in the Capitol building waving that thing. So in spite of some of the less savory voices that seemed to get amplified in that circumstance, I thought that whole incident was quite refreshing and kind of a little bit of a breath of fresh air. I mean, lots of folks are going to say, well, it's stupid because you're all going to get the virus. But I think it's also very important for folks in this country to know that this isn't a the heavy boot of the martial law coming down on our necks here. That this circumstance, while there's lots of overreach, there's also we also still retain a extraordinary degree of civil liberties in this country, and we value them deeply. And I think that what those folks in Michigan did was kind of caution all of the other governors and municipalities in the rest of the country that don't push this too far because these are citizens of the United States of America, and we've got certain requirements. You don't mess with us, you know, too much. Don't push too hard.
Right. Well, quite possibly. Hey, Josh Stevens, do you see my message, my private message to you at the bottom of this call screen?
I do not, actually. Let me reload it.
Do I have to, maybe I have to press a button here. Oh, yeah. Do you see it now?
Got it.
Okay, good. See if you can get Char Murphy on, call her on the VIP line. And she lives right there in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And let's get her perspective. It's really interesting. Well, I'm not gonna prejudge, or I'm not gonna clue anybody into what she might say or what her history is and so forth. But in any case, Jonty, thank you very much for your update and your impressions and so forth. I hope you have a great rest of the weekend.
Likewise, MZ. Take care, my friend. We'll talk
All right,
soon.
you too. See ya. Okay, take next. Who would that be? Oh, it's George in Hollister about Josh's ticket. Hi,
yeah.
George.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for last week. You played Dean Sutton immediately following the Saturday special and his analysis of, what's going on with Josh. I have to say, I think that might have been quite a naive analysis, which you might expect from somebody who's a neophyte in a certain area of the law. This other guy that I've alluded to a couple times, who is a specialist in California constitutional law, lays it right out that from the Constitution to the executive order of the governor, which doesn't allow any suspension of liberty, but only allows the health officer to take appropriate measures concerning health issues, to the court cases. This is not a new area. This is a well-established law over and over again that a health officer cannot interfere with the liberty of any human being unless that person has been diagnosed as having whatever the disease is, and also the immediate family members that are living in, close proximity. So I don't think that there is any basis for any countywide or, whatever the jurisdiction is, suspension of anybody's ability to go anyplace. I think your health officer has a duty to know the limitation of her authority. So I think that when she doesn't respond appropriately in that regard, she's committing a crime in connection
You're
with
talking about the health officer of the county of Santa Cruz. You're not talking.
Well, I am, but maybe also the state. But anyway, she is committing a crime in connection with her practice of medicine. And I think that you should make this wouldn't require a lawyer. Just make the complaint to the the medical board, and have her license taken, because this is so egregious what's happening.
You mean like closing the parks and closing the surfing and everything?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's suspending the liberty of the entire population when she clearly doesn't have that authority.
Right.
I have another. If I can have another moment.
Please make it real quick, because we have Char Murphy on from Michigan.
Okay.
On the line here.
There's also another aspect of this. I heard another lawyer talking about how it's not a states' rights issue. It's a interstate commerce issue. So when somebody closes a beach and somebody doesn't travel here to use that beach, that's interstate commerce, and that's a solid violation of interstate commerce. Not anything as flimsy as what they use to enforce interstate commerce. So that's a federal crime, and it's also a civil rights issue. So I'd like to see your health officer not just lose her license. I'd be delighted to see her spend years in a federal penitentiary.
Okay.
That's my comment.
I appreciate it, George and Hollister. Here's Char Murphy. Hi, Char Murphy. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Hi, Michael. Yeah.
You think you might have had the virus? Am I allowed to say that in front of all our audience?
I know I had the virus, and I'll tell you why. Because I've still haven't got all my hearing back. And Nora O'Donnell on CBS Evening News interviewed a priest not quite half my age, but in his 50s, that was in the hospital for 3 weeks with it. And she said to him, the last thing she said to him was, "I'm glad that you got your hearing back." Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You know? So, no, I know I had it.
Are we allowed to say what your age is?
Sure, I just turned 77 on April 7th, and I have not been to a doctor. I haven't had a doctor appointment for a checkup in over 30 years, and I didn't go to the doctor for the stupid virus either. And I'll tell you something else. A friend of mine said, here I'm going through my whole life story, but...
No, that's good. We want you to, Char.
Well, Bruce Lupton is considered the thing of the epigenetics with Dr. Wallach. And Bruce Lupton said that 90% of all these, health issues, sickness, is caused by stress. And here we go. My husband was sleeping all the day long and not feeling well. And I remember my sister, who took care of my parents, saying that my dad was at the end sleeping all day. And so that was my stress. I mean, I didn't realize how bad it was, I guess, until I got that virus. And, of course, my husband ended up passing away on the day after St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, just very recently. So we're so sorry about that, Char.
Yep.
So we know you're in a grieving period right now.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the governor problem, though. And I don't know if you guys, we made the national news because they had a traffic jam. They all drove into Lansing and parked.
Oh, we've all seen it. We've all seen it, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, see, the governor before this was a Republican, and he poisoned everybody and killed some people in Flint, if you remember.
Yeah, the Flint water system thing, yeah.
Yeah, I knew there was never going to be a Republican elected again. And poor Lance Griffin bet my husband $300 that Republican would get elected. And I knew they're not going to elect another Republican after what he did. And so she got elected, not really because she was so great, but just because the other one poisoned everybody, and people didn't want it like that either. So, I mean, they're all evil. I don't care who they are, Democrat, Republican, they're a bunch of scumbags. And she's no different. A friend of mine, Jerry's got a He has a house in Grand Rapids, and he's got a cottage up near Traverse City. And now she said he can't go to his cottage anymore. I mean, that's like Hitler telling you can't go to your own house. And you can go into certain stores, but there's stuff yellow taped off like a crime scene that you can't buy. You can go into the store, but she's dictating to you what you can buy in the store once you get in there. I mean, it's just crazy.
And people they're taking it seriously, because if they don't, they'll get fined or jailed, right? Or both.
Oh, people are scared. And like I said, I had no choice but to have my husband cremated, because we were going to have a funeral, which I already paid for, but no one will come because you can only have 10 people at a gathering. Well, the funeral home told me that they can have 50 people, but they have to sit 6 feet apart. But most people don't realize that. And Lance was calling everybody, you know, family and friends, and nobody wanted to come because they're scared, you know, scared to death to, you know, get out of their houses, I guess. So basically my husband's funeral is still on hold. That's how scared people are. And, of course, like I went through it without even going to a stupid doctor. So,
tell us, but you don't know for positive that what you had was indeed the COVID-19.
It was. I will bet money on it. I'm 99% sure it was.
Why? How can you know that?
Well, because first of all, my sister got it. She went deaf with it, and she
was tested.
No, we don't go to doctors. They kill people.
Okay. All right. For those of you who don't know, this is Char Murphy, who is the co-host of the Dead Doctors Don't Lie program that we've been producing here. You haven't been the co-host for 24 years, but we've been producing the program live at KSCO since September 15th, 1996. So it's going on 24 years now. You've been the co-host with Doc Wallach, I don't know, for the last couple of years, would you say, Char?
I got it written down. It's probably 5 or 6 years now. I don't know.
Wow, that long. Okay. And you became acquainted with Doc Wallach by accident, close to 30 years ago, right? When you happened to hear a lecture of his, and you became his original distributor, the person who originally started us helping him spread his message of health and longevity through nutrition rather than through prescription drugs and many times unnecessary surgeries. So. And
it works, believe me. It was 29 years ago this very month. I don't know what day. And I asked him and Milan, his wife, in the 29 years that we've known each other, how many times do you remember me ever being sick? They can't remember. This is the only time in 29 years that they can remember me being sick.
And boy, were you sick, right? I mean, it was just, you couldn't even hear.
Have my hearing. Oh, yeah, I don't quite have my hearing back yet. I mean, I'm not quite normal. I've been, my son got some, that ear cleaner wax, wax cleaner out of your ears, and I tried it yesterday, and it helped a little bit, but I'm still working on it. But no, my sister got sick first in December, and she had a relapse because she's got a lot of stress from her family. I don't want to go into details, but, so she, feels that she had it. She was deaf like I was, only her hearing came back right away. Mine did not. She thought she had pneumonia. She called me and said, "You're going to have to take me to the hospital because I think I got pneumonia." And then the next day she started feeling better, and she thought, well, you don't want to go to the hospital when you're feeling better. So she never did go. And then I got it. She had it, like I said, the middle of December, and then I got it about around the 1st of March. And then there was a minister and magician that we've known for like 25 years, and I asked him to officiate at my husband's funeral, and he said, with pleasure. And I got to talking to him, and he had it. He said the same thing. He thought he had pneumonia, like my sister. So all the symptoms are very similar. So I'm sure I had. I'll bet money I had it. I don't want to go find out though, because
Char, we want to lock you in so other people who are calling in can talk to you here. But first, I have a question for Josh Stevens.
Yeah, what you got?
Josh, are we going to go an extra hour today, or is the 12 noon program paid?
The 12 noon is unlocked, so if you want to do it, by all means.
Okay, well, let's do that since I'm not doing anything else, and we can, if it evolves
May
or
I put
devolves
Char on
or
Fader
whatever.
2, by the way?
Pardon me?
May I put Char on Fader 2, by the way?
Sure, yeah.
That way, whenever you take guests, I
okay,
can
well,
keep the levels.
So wait a second here. Do I need to unlock Char?
Yeah, you already got that, and I've got her on 2. Oop,
but I want to lock her
on
up
2
again. Lock her in.
Lock. There
Good.
we go. Ready to rock.
Okay. Rory in Watsonville wants to talk about the Lansing protest, and we want to have Char on for that here. So, Rory, you're on with MZ and Josh and Char.
Yes, thank you. It's good to hear Char's voice. Condolences on your husband's passing, Char.
Well, thank you.
Sorry to hear that. Did he have this same bug, you think?
No. He probably lived anywhere from 11 to 20-some years longer than he would have because of Dr. Wallach's supplements, but he wouldn't quit smoking, and so he pretty much did himself in my opinion. The cause of death.
Wait a minute. Please be more specific. I mean, you did himself in? Those are strong words. What are you talking about, Char?
Well, he wouldn't quit smoking. He had pneumonia 3 years ago, and his one lung is black from that. He had emphysema and COPD in that lung. And as soon as he's given our carpenter a lecture about smoking, and then he starts smoking again right away. And the cause of death on the death certificate said he had pneumonia.
Okay. Is he Norwegian descent? Was he Norwegian?
No, Murphy. He's
Sweden.
half,
well, anyway.
Irish.
He's half Dutch and half Irish. Yep.
Oh, there you go. Well, you're the Dutch Irish. You can tell them, but you can't tell them much. So that's funny there. But
I got you're right. I mean, you're right. I didn't holler at him. My son would holler at him.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to say I did see the protest. I was encouraged. I saw Jason Howland was walking around and live streaming it on Facebook. Probably different people.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but
anyway, it was encouraging. I just want to say, when you've got a governor like this Whitler lady, and she said you can't buy vegetable seeds and plants, you can't buy flooring, paint, you can go to the lake, but you can't use a motorized boat. She's just begging for pushback.
And you can't have any elective procedures done in the hospital, any elective surgeries, but you can have all the abortions you want.
Yes, yeah. And then she said that's for women's health. That helps keep them safe. I heard part of her interview with David Axelrod.
Let me make sure I got this right. You mentioned as part of that governor's restrictions that gardening and all that was tapered off. So I remember seeing this one photo of a certain home goods store that was still open because it sold like groceries and other things, but they had the whole Easter section as well as the gardening section all tapered off. And is that also part of the ruling where if a store has multiple goods, they have to seize the sale of those that are considered essential?
Yeah.
That's absurd.
The big box stores were taped off and not allowed to sell those products. So, and to John T., they couldn't arrest all those people. There would have been, if they sent in even National Guard, there would have been a bloodbath in probably both directions. So this thing is, many are starting to say it. If you don't start opening up the economy, you're going to have more problems than a coronavirus. And it has to be done. And I understand they're going to protest on the 30th down there when the legislature's in session. So good for the Michiganers. And I hope we see something like that in California. I'm very concerned about the efforts by little would-be tyrants to overstep their bounds. And historically, quarantines were for sick people. And the rest of us can take precautions when we're out and about. And obviously, sick people need to be quarantined, and that's what I wanted to say. So thank you, Char and MZ.
Thank you, Rory, for calling 479-1080. Tom Quinn, we want our country back. You're on with Char and MZ and Josh.
Yeah, we do. And Char's great. You know, everyone in the United States should really thank the people of Michigan for getting the ball rolling, because we need to do that here. We need to start having demonstrations around the county building. We're Americans. We don't have to get on our hands and knees and beg the county health officer to open our businesses. I mean, are people such wimps and wusses that they're going to just let this country go, you know, down the toilet without doing anything?
I'd like to think that the answer to that question is no, but I'm afraid it might be yes.
Well, the whole thing is people can start out in a simple way. They can call the health officer and tell her she's overstepped her bounds. That might lead to lawsuits. You know, if she has the audacity to declare thousands of her and her buddies, the other health officers, if they have the audacity to declare many thousands of businesses not essential, we have the right to say she's not essential.
We do.
Yeah. And not only that, if the county, which is connected to her, has the right to shut down all these businesses and send police officers to harass everyone, we have the right to shut them down too. We can get thousands of cars and trucks and people to jam them up, just like in France with the yellow vest thing and what they did in Michigan. This is all, you know, it's a value judgment. People have to decide, is their constitutional rights and their freedom more important than some virus? I mean, to me, it's a simple decision. You know, that's really one last comment here. One thing that's sort of ironic is that one of the signers of the U.S. Constitution was Dr. Benjamin Rush. And Dr. Benjamin Rush pleaded in front of the Constitutional Convention to have an amendment that specifically guaranteed medical freedom. And he said if they didn't have one, medical dictators would set themselves up and cause a lot of problems. Unfortunately, we don't have that, but the other parts of the Constitution still give us those protections. And when you look at these absolutely insane things these governors and little health officers are trying to impose on people, they've got a whole shopping list of all their goofy left-wing nonsense, or whatever the hell you call it, that they're trying to sneak in this period of confusion.
Okay. Yeah, Tom, thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Quick comment, Char, before we go to Steve Hartman in Lincoln, Montana.
Okay, listen, Doc, you know what Trump is doing? He's a genius. He gives the states the rights to do this and they're all running their state like they want, and guess what? He did it to expose them for the tyrants that they are. And now everybody sees what's going on. He has the right to cut the funding off, too.
Char Murphy, I need to disclose this, and I hope you don't mind. You are certainly talking like a Trump supporter if you're calling him a genius.
Yes.
As I've known you for many, many years, and you didn't think very much of Trump not too long ago. I wouldn't say you had Trump derangement syndrome, but you didn't care for him at all. Is that a correct statement?
Well, I realize what he's doing right now. You know what they call him? They call him a rhino. You know what that means?
Republican in name only, yeah.
Name only. Well, here's the deal. I think it's very obvious that the Democratic Party has been taken over by the cabal, and he couldn't run as a Democrat because he was a Democrat all his life. What he's trying to do, I think anybody with a half a pea brain can see it, he's trying to finish what President Kennedy attempted and got killed for. He's eliminated the IRS and the Federal Reserve. He moved them into the U.S. Treasury. And these checks that were just sent out, I just was reading on the Internet, the IRS, they use the IRS records, which are all messed up. So they've got a lot of fixing to do. People got checks in the wrong name. It's a big cabal mess. So they're going to have to fix all that. And so, you know, he's got a lot of things on his plate to deal with, and I do believe that he is trying to straighten the country out. We're going to go to the gold standard. New money's coming out. 209 countries are involved in it, not just us. And China won't take our fiat money anymore. Everybody knows it's only worth the paper it's printed on. And when Nixon took us off the gold standard, if you are old enough to remember, some people aren't, but I am, that's when prices escalated on everything, cars, houses, you name it, food. It's gone up because the value of the money has gone down dramatically. So if we go back on the gold standard again and they have gold-backed money, which we are doing right now, Trump is in the process of doing this, he's one step ahead of them all. He didn't start this virus, but he's used it to if people are up on all this stuff, in New York, there's a bunch of Marines that are rescuing abused children out of tunnels. There's a 2.5-mile tunnel down there, and they're putting all these abused children on the ship, that Mercy or Hope, I guess. And he's doing all this undercover because he got everybody locked up in their house. I mean, he didn't start this virus, but he's trying to use it right now to clean the swamp, so to speak, without everybody knowing about it.
Wow. I mean, geez, you're making my head explode, Char Murphy. Here, I was thinking that the left have been after Trump since day one, since before day one, since he came down on the escalator a year and a half before he was elected. And here I was thinking that they've tried everything else, and now killing the economy, if that doesn't do it, nothing will, And so you're saying that Trump is turning it around and beating them at their own game? I mean, I love hearing that, but is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's true, because, listen, somebody, I don't know the name, predicted, because they've tried impeaching him under false pretenses. They've tried getting rid of him every which way they can. They're still bad-mouthing him about this. He didn't create this virus. Apparently, Bill Gates owns the patent on it. 3M had another patent on this stuff, and he said something in his speech once about straightening out 3M or something, like basically probably threatening them, and they joined the good side instead of the bad side. But anyway, this guy predicted that this virus would happen to make him look bad, and how he handles it is going to matter whether he gets elected again. And I think what he's doing is using the virus to implement a lot of stuff that he wanted to do. I don't think they planned on this. I think he beat them at their own game again.
I mean, I hope you're right. I mean...
I know I'm right. I'm right. I'm telling you, I know I'm right.
Well, Char,
yeah,
it was Dr. Fauci. Months and months and months before this happened, he made a comment that Trump was going to be sideswiped by a surprise virus. And him and Bill Gates and the World Health Authority, they've been into all this stuff for decades because they're the ones that sell the pharmaceuticals. They're the ones that sell the vaccines. Bill Gates owns all these companies that are involved in vaccines and pharmaceuticals. He was formally kicked out of India. He let so many vaccines go in India and killed so many people and paralyzed so many people. He was formally ejected from India. Please look that up on the internet.
Oh, hey, listen. A friend of mine, Lance, he's got it on his phone, and I think he put it on my phone. In Bill Gates' own words, this is what he said. There's 3 ways to reduce the population, because he's out to kill 9 out of 10 of us. The first thing is the medical profession, because they're the #1 killer of everybody. The second thing is vaccinations, because they kill people. That's what he does. And the third thing is abortions. And it's in his own words.
Well, another equally amazing comment about Bill Gates is that his family physician that had taken care of his family and children for decades made a public comment a number of years ago that Bill Gates was very careful to not allow his children to be vaccinated.
There you go. Yep.
Wow.
The rumor is that Barron Trump was normal until he got a vaccination, and now he has autism. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the rumor that goes around.
Well, there's actual comments from Trump where he complained about autism, so there could be some truth to that rumor.
All right, Tom, thanks for calling 479-1080.
God bless.
Stay with us, Char. Here's Don and Salinas. we're beating the virus and the left is angry.
Yes. You know, people like me, people who can do simple arithmetic, are looking at the numbers and see that infections have plateaued, deaths are going down, and we're asking now, are we there yet? What's next? And this has enraged and terrified the left. Now they're coming out with more draconian measures. Everybody wear a mask and telling you, whoa, you might get the virus a second time, and all this fake news coming out. And you wonder why. Well, I found out why yesterday when the governor made his announcement of this council that's going to reopen California with Tom Steyer on it, who said there are social injustices that were exposed by the virus, and we're going to fix them, and California is going to have a sustainable economy from now on. This is what's going on. They can't lose control. They have control now, and they think they're going to rebuild our economy in their own image, and they don't want to lose it. And the Democrats do not want to acknowledge that the governors don't own the state, the people do. And that's what they're trying to turn around on people and make them not realize that they have the power. The people have the power, not the governor, but they want it to be opposite. That in this emergency, they have the power. And oh my God, it just freaked me out. The Apple CEO is going to be on this council, and to me, unless they're going to scoop up a Chinese plant and plop it down in California, he can go to hell. I don't want him here. Because he's not going to do anything for us. He's going to do everything for China. I mean, this is insane what they're planning on doing with our state.
All right, Don,
And,
thank you for calling.
Wait, MZ, can you still hear me?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to say something to Char. She's Dutch-Irish. I'm Dutch-Irish, and I wanted to say something to her that she probably will appreciate. When I brought my wife to meet my family for the first time, I forgot to prepare her. And she was terrified and horrified at what she saw, because our conversations sound more like knockdown, drag-out fights. And and she even told me, she says, it's no wonder you're all hard of hearing.
All right, great.
Well,
Look,
I'm only Dutch Irish through marriage, but I'm about Heinz 57. I just about got every, including American Indian. I'm just a mishmash of everything.
All right, thank you, Don. Here, real quick here. Hartman, we'll hold you over. We're going to do a third hour from 12 to 1. But we're going to start. Go ahead, Steve, real quick.
This is Bathtub Steve calling from, or excuse me, Bathrobe Steve calling from Lincoln, Montana.
Okay, great.
Well, the first thing, I've got 4 things. The first thing is I don't believe that any virus that goes from animal to human was done accidentally. I think it was made in a lab for use as a bioweapon. That's number 1. Number 2.
All right, you got to hold the number 2 and the rest because we got 15 seconds left. This is it's normally the end of the Saturday special, but I'm going to talk to you about what's happening next hour.
Let's get you on over to hour number 3 of the Saturday special on this special edition here on KSCO.
And just to confirm, so there's no misunderstanding, that we do not have a paid program, that the lack of broadcast thereof will result in some terrible reduction of income to the radio station.
Not at all. I have. Okay. We are live at this hour on the log, but nothing there, so it's free for all.
Well, this is a good chance. This is a good opportunity for me to put out the word. When I get on the radio, I'm just my crazy self, which has an awful lot of humor that I got from my folks. They have great senses of humor, my mom and my dad. And a lot of people know that I have a sort of a crazy, warped sense of humor, but this is nothing to joke about. The 12 noon to 1 p.m. time slot on KSCO has traditionally been the most valuable time slot to sell to advertisers or to people who want to reach the largest audience, because it's the end of the Saturday special. I'm not patting myself on the back. The Saturday special has been The original local program on KSCO since before I even owned the radio station. So it has a pretty large established audience of people who like to listen to our free form. What am I hearing?
Char had a dial tone on her end.
Okay.
So I muted her.
All right, fine. Right when I'm in the middle of a of a promo for this. Normally, 12 noon to 1 p.m. is the easiest on Saturdays. Is the easiest program to sell to sponsors because it has the built-in lead-in audience of the Saturday special. Just like 12 noon to 1 p.m. is on weekdays with Charlie, which has Rush Limbaugh's built-in residual audience, is just a great place to advertise besides in Rush himself. But I'm putting this thing out right now. I'm hoping and I believe that this time slot will again, hopefully as soon as next week, be fully sponsored as it always has been right up until for the last almost 30 years on KSCO, right up until last week. This is the first time that we've done a 3-hour extension in my recollection, except when I was asked to do a third hour by the sponsor of that program, which for many, many years was Tom Quinn, who was a caller in the last program. And for many years after that, Dr. David Biles. But now there's no sponsor, which means that MZ is the sponsor. And I'm just letting you know I can't do too much of this too much longer without something's got to give, you know. So I don't know how to say this in a classy way. So there probably is no way to say it in a classy way. The radio station KSCO is totally unique, ladies and gentlemen. There's no station like it anywhere on the planet, okay, in terms of serving its community and lots of live and local produced programs. We take advantage of our location in the world, Santa Cruz, California, a place where there are more characters per square inch than anywhere else on the planet. But we need to have sponsors. We need to have people, businesses running ads on the radio station, and we also need businesses buying block hours like 12 noon to 1 p.m. Like I said, there is not a sponsor at all for right now, so I'm the sponsor, but I can't afford to do this much longer. So that's the message. Please, if you have a business or if you have even if you have a perspective that you'd like to share in long form, please consider purchasing an hour of time on your favorite radio station. Or
MZ.
Yes.
You should also consider extending that offer to those who are within the worship audience, such as those who might attend a church. And if they know that their church is doing live streams,
yes,
ask them to broadcast on here. We actually had a client broadcast their Easter Sunday service last week, and it went well. And we're also able to extend that offer as well. If you'd like to hear your church on the radio, now's the perfect chance to get them on there.
Good, perfect. Thank you, Josh, for remembering to put that out. I don't want this to be the wrong message, but we're going to be here as long as we can afford to be. But if we can't afford to be, we're not going to be here, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be gone. There'll just be dead air when you turn on AM 1080 KSCO, or you'll hear some foreign language if I sell it to some company that there are plenty of places to buy that are willing to buy a 10,000-watt radio station. And if I ever sold it, I would want it to go to someone who can take it to the next level from what we've done in the last 3 decades. So just file that away, okay?
iHeartMedia people need not apply.
I don't care who. Well, I don't know what to say about that. I think it would be horrible. I want to get out of this. I really do. I want to just be a talk show host on KSCO occasionally. I don't want to be the owner anymore. I don't want to continue to own this place and be responsible for it. I don't want the obligations. I'm too old to have to worry about things like that. On the other hand, it's a legacy. I want it to fall into the hands of someone who can take it to the next level, who has my values. Okay.
So how do people who are interested in getting a show, how can they reach us here? That's the big question.
Sales at KSCO.com, or call 475-1080 and ask for someone in sales. You could talk to you can send an email to MZ at KSCO. You could send an email to Josh at KSCO. Is that your email address?
That's
Josh?
Correct. Josh at KSCO.com.
Okay. Whoever you feel like that you can have some sort of a rapport with, who will give you good advice to grow your movement or your ministry or your business or whatever. KSCO is still here. I don't know how long we're going to be able to be here, and I'm dead serious about that. I hope we'll be able to be here for a long time, and I hope we'll be able to be here long after I'm gone, okay? Because it's a very, very special radio station. So, okay.
Should we get back to our callers?
Absolutely. I think we were talking with Hartman in Montana and Char. And by the way, we only have Dick in Santa Cruz, who has a pseudo-COVID attack that he wants to share with us, or a story about that. But otherwise, we have totally open lines at 831-479-1080. I haven't checked the email for a while, so if you want to email mz at ksco.com, feel free to do so. But go ahead, Steve Hartman and Char Murphy.
Well, I guess the first thing I'd like to say is that your ratings ought to zoom with everybody sheltering in place. So it sounds like that would be an ideal spot to start advertising.
Mm-hmm. Well, but if you can't, if your business isn't allowed to operate, I can certainly understand that people are not going to advertise, you know?
Yeah, well, that's understandable too. Anyway, getting back to where we were, I do think that this coronavirus was meant to be a bioweapon. I don't think there's any way around that now. To manufacture something that goes from animal to human and then human to human would take a lot of technology. Otherwise, we'd have seen this virus 100 years ago. The second thing is my Facebook page, Stephen D. Hartman, Lincoln, Montana, has a rant from a guy that I listened to yesterday that was quite remarkable. He talked about how this virus is leading us to socialism because everybody's going broke. The restaurants are going broke.
Oh, no. What happened? I was trying to take Char off lock because I think she was talking to somebody, and instead I killed Hartman. But I'm going to put Hartman back on now.
Okay, I'm clear now too.
Okay, yeah, because we're picking up every site. Your phone is very, very sensitive, Char. So.
Well, because I have to have the volume high so I can hear everything, because my hearing isn't back what it should be.
Okay.
From that.
All right. Well, we'll lock you in, but I'll actually, you know what we'll do?
There we go.
Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry. Just.
Where'd you cut me off at?
You weren't. I don't know. About 20 seconds ago.
Did you get the part about the rant in?
No.
Okay. On my Facebook page, I posted a guy who's done a rant. He's a rancher. We've got meatpacking plants closing down because of the virus. We've got farmers having to destroy crops. Well, we're destroying 4 million gallons of milk a day. Basically, this country is being brought to its knees, and the outcome of that could be that everyone has to rely on government, which turns this country to instant socialism. That's number 3. And finally, I may have a cure for the coronavirus, except you can't buy it in California. It's a wonderful bottle of booze called Everclear. It's 190 proof, 95% alcohol. And my theory is that you can only get the virus three ways: through your eyes, through your nose, or breathe it into your throat. And it takes a few days for it to work its way down into the lungs to create the pneumonia. But if you've got alcoholic content over 60%, it kills the virus. So if you're sipping on Everclear, use ice cubes so it doesn't burn you to death, you should be able to kill the virus at least from the throat down to the lungs on its way to the stomach. And even if it stays in the mucous membrane of the nasal cavity, it'll stay there long enough to either die or the body would build up antibodies to kill it off. I called the CDC on this, and they couldn't answer me. So they referred me to a government organization called BARDA, B-A-R-D-A, Biomedical Advanced Development, I don't know, something. So I emailed them. I haven't got an answer back yet, but I will let you know what they say when they say it.
Okay.
And that's all I got, Michael.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Always
my
great to hear from you.
bathrobe's kind of stinky.
Okay. Well, it's not.
Have a great week.
It's not smell-o-vision nor smell-o-radio, thankfully. So, Dick in Santa Cruz, tell us about your pseudo-COVID attack.
Oh, yeah. Before that, I just wanted to say, Steve said that this coronavirus is turning us into socialists, but actually, it's turning me into a Democrat. I'm sitting at home watching Netflix and waiting for my government check. That's for Steve.
Nice. Char enjoyed it too.
There's a couple of things I want to talk about, but yeah, Char got me to call about her, her sickness that she had, where she had a hearing problem and hadn't been sick in 3 decades. And basically, I hadn't been sick in 3 decades too. And in early January, it hit me pretty hard, whatever it was. I kind of dragged my butt around. I'm semi-retired, so it wasn't that big of a problem. And about 4 days into it, I got a fever for a while. And then I lost my sense of taste and smell, which at that time was not publicized as a forerunner of maybe having coronavirus. And since then, I've talked to some people in the government, and they have had a lot of cases of people coming down with strange flu-like, very intense sicknesses in late December and January. So I just want to throw that out. My son was also virally sick too, but he's pretty strong and got over it in about 4 or 5 days. One other thing, this if anybody has heard about this, Stanford has a report out about early herd immunity in California, where they're estimating now that there's up to 80 times more people infected by coronavirus in Santa Clara County than they're basically reporting. So that tells us 2 things. It tells us that we're developing herd immunity, and it also tells us the rate of death is less, because that's the denominator. You got a lot more people with it and fewer people dying, and so the ratio is a lot lower. Not to mention, there's always the stat out there where even on Dr. Fossey's assistant, I forgot her name, the one with the scarf, she said that they're counting deaths, which are included other people with already very serious illnesses, and they count it as a corona death.
So you get more money for it.
Yeah, that's right. It was reported that you would get $13,000 through Medicare or Medicaid as an admission to the hospital, and $39,000 per person on a ventilator. So that's money talks. I'm sorry. I hate to sound so callous about people's health, but hospitals, I've always had a thing about hospitals and what they charge, and thank goodness that Trump allowed the hospitals now to have to report basic charges, which they never had to before since Trump got in. So I agree also with Don and Salinas about all this. I think we should open it up, keep the the weak and the real old hidden away and open everything up. There's some herd immunity out there, as Stanford has said. And I think I had coronavirus. So anyway, I hope you get all over your hearing, Char. I hope your hearing comes back.
Thank you. It's coming back quite a bit. I just, I'm on the tail end here, hopefully.
All right, Santa Cruz Dick, nice. Thanks for calling. Thanks for sharing your story here. Pamela in Soquel, why you not asking for donations? Oh, okay. That's a good idea. You ask for me. That'll be better.
I believe that there's probably a lot of us that would be very happy to donate to your radio station because you are awesome. You're telling us the truth, which we all need to know today. And so I think if you give us all where we can how we can donate or where to send the donations, we would be happy to do so.
Thank you. Wow, I appreciate it. There is, and I'm feeling really bad now because there I don't know, probably about half a dozen or a dozen people who for the last umpteen years have been sending us $10.80 a month, through PayPal, and somewhere on KSCO.com, I'm going to send Jaunty a reminder email to make that more prominent because I know it's there somewhere.
I have the website. Actually, you can just go to supportksco.com.
Okay, good. I was going to say that supportksco.com. That's the best way to support us. And the greatest way to support us would be to get some high-tech person who has a bunch of money and is really bored and would like to have their own radio station to take to the next level. But they're going to be strongly vetted by me personally, because I don't want this to fall into the hands of somebody who's going to do something that I wouldn't do with it. I'll just keep it as long as I can afford to. But I'd rather not. I'd rather, like I said, just be a talk show host on it who has a Saturday program, and can occasionally go do a commentary or something. That's all I really want to do, and take care of the great people who make, who've made this station possible for the last 3 decades, So, support KSCO.com. You can make, I believe you can make a PayPal donation there, a one-time or a monthly or whatever. But thank you, Pamela. And there's a Pamela who's in that group who's been sending us $10.80, and I feel so horrible. Every time someone does that, they should get a personal email from me thanking them, because because that means so much more to me. For someone, sending a few dollars who doesn't have a business and might be on a really fixed income and so forth, to support us with anything is just so amazing and so appreciated. And I need to at least put that out over the air,
We really appreciate you, and we want to show that appreciation. And I think many of us would be willing to donate a good amount of whatever it takes to keep you on, keep your radio station
Well, one thing I was thinking of doing is selling, $100 increment gift cards that people could give away to their favorite businesses, who are struggling now, a lot of them who are just out of business, and those that are in business, like us, for example. You hear a lot of commercials on KSCO because we're taking care of our existing advertisers that we treasure. We're giving them much more than they've bargained for because we want to do something for them for supporting us. But the fact of the fact of the matter is, and the absolute truth is, our advertising revenues are way down.
MZ, you just mentioned something that was important, and we should also remind folks about, and that's right now, because of these times that we live in. Right now, those who advertise with KSCO or even get show blocks have been offered the chance to double their advertising budget. So let's say you order 3 blocks of shows. Well, you can turn that 3 into 6, or you order 10 commercials, that becomes 20. And that's what we're doing for everyone right now as a result of just trying to get the word out and bolster our community and show it the support it needs in this time.
Yeah, and we understand that a lot of businesses are simply unable to advertise. How are they going to pay their damn rent, for gosh sakes, you know? But for those businesses that can afford to, or for people who have a favorite business that they feel very bad for, you know, buy some advertising on KSCO for them. Because we know our listenership is way up. Because, you know, it's an easy, convenient thing for people to do when they're sheltered in place.
And even in
Not just watch Netflix, you know.
And even in this third hour, we're still filling up the board with callers too. Even though this is just totally unannounced, totally last minute, you've got that following, MZ.
Well, anyhow, thank you, Josh, and thank you, Pamela, for that great suggestion.
You're welcome. And I wondered too if there's a mail-in address to send.
Sure,
I'm still a
2300 Portola Drive, Santa Cruz 95062 is our snail mail address, and we still get a lot of snail mail.
95062?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, God bless you, and we'll be praying for you too.
Thank you, Pamela. I'm right back at you. Flinks and Aptos comment on sales. Go ahead, Flinks, you're on.
Hey, it's real easy for me to call up and say, "Oh, I want to support you, I love you," and I don't give you any money. But I sit here going, "Oh, I want to love you and take care of you," but I can't because I'm financially strapped. But I think you're the William Wallace of radio. You're the truncheon against the outside world around us, and there's no unbiasedness on your radio shows. You cover the full gamut. You know, I love your radio, and it's kind of scary to hear you say this. And I've heard you say it in the past where you said, you know, I'm almost done with this. I'm almost done. And I was wondering, maybe you could comment if you were to quit and not be William Wallace and let the others win. I wondered if what you would do. Would there be an announcement, like we got one more month left, and then the last week, and then the last day? Would you kind of have a celebration at the end? And would you put the radio up for sale, and maybe you would find some rich person around here that loves your radio station and wants to follow your footsteps?
It's always for sale. Anything is for sale.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
But you know, it's not going to be the easiest thing to happen because it's more than just the price that I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone, you know, that will continue. The word is legacy that I keep using. I'm proud of this legacy. It's the only legacy I have. I don't have any kids, you know.
Is there anybody in the back of your mind? Is there anybody in the back of your mind that you think, hey, they might be interested in this, or you can't?
No,
really
I have no idea. I'm just putting it out to the people. Get everybody think of every person you know who has money that they don't know what to do with, and would like to do something good with it, and have them contact MZ at KSCO.com. That's all I can say.
My fear would be that like KCBS or KGO would take over, and that would be a nightmare. But anyways, thank you for your show.
No, they're not acquiring anything. They're those big companies are
like
going into bankruptcy one by one.
Intercom.
Yeah. So don't worry about that. You know, they're not interested in backwater Santa Cruz. Even when they were fat and happy, they weren't interested in backwater Santa Cruz anyhow. So. Who's next here? I guess I'll take next. Lucas and Soledad. Trump's a genius. Okay, I agree.
Yeah, it's just amazing me how he is playing the media and also the Democrats for just not understanding what he's doing as far as, you know, back in January, we all know that he flew 3 different military planes of hundreds of people out of China. Why? Because bottom line is there was an outbreak, okay? And the media is acting like, well, he wasn't quick to respond to what was going to happen. Well, I don't think you get faster than that, okay? He was also the one that shut down, him and his administration, shut down flights from other countries into our country, and the media, they act like, well, he wasn't quick to respond. And so then, all of a sudden, here he is now. He comes up with this idea, you know what? I'm going to tell the Democrats and the mainstream media, bottom line is, I have control to open this country back up. Knowing very well, I guarantee it, he did not have that control, okay? And the governors are like, hey, you don't have that control. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Now it's back in your ballpark, and now you're the people that's looking bad, not me. You keep blaming me that I didn't do enough, okay? So I'm going to throw it right back at you. So I just love what he does with this media and with the Democrats, because it's amazing. And I know he's not doing it by himself. I guarantee he has a think tank just like he did with the apprenticeship for 14 years. He doesn't think about this all by himself. He has a lot of advisors, and they don't get it, okay? And I love it. I do.
Okay,
and,
Char, that's your cue. What do you have to say about all this? You have thoughts, I'm sure.
Well, as a person that's never voted Republican in her life, I'm praying for him that they don't bump him off. The rumor is they've tried 40-some times to kill him. The person they hired to eat the food got killed, poisoned, with a slow-acting poison. That's the rumor. Yeah. And I agree with the fella because he is a genius. He outsmarts the media. He outsmarts all the cabal. And they've done nothing but try to destroy him. All the mainstream media, 90% of the stuff about him is all negative. There's people that watch that all the time, and they can't figure out how to get rid of him. They try to fake impeachment. They created this. I agree. This virus was definitely made to do him in, and they figure, first of all, if a person wanted to get elected again, the last thing they would do is start a virus going to make him look bad. I mean, somebody did it to him to make him look bad. So
I'll tell you right now, she's a very smart lady. I realize she's only 65. Okay, I'm just kidding. I know she's 77, right? Okay,
Yeah.
But anyway, no, and she's not even in California anymore, right? She's in another state.
Well, never has been a California resident, have you, Char?
Oh, okay.
No,
but you've been to you come to California multiple times a year for sure, so you know California.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. Anyhow, Lucas,
Okay.
thank you very much
All right,
for
thank you.
calling.
Thank you.
479-1080. Our next caller is Hank in Santa Cruz Mountains. Hi, Hank in Santa Cruz Mountains.
Hi, MJ. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for calling.
Subject going back to China. I thought I heard something on the previous show, Michael Olson's show, that Soros was funding the factory in Wuhan, China. If that's the case, I'd like to hear a discussion about that, because if that's the case, why is he doing it? I mean, I don't think that Wuhan factory had any kind of a commercial venture. So why if Soros is funding it, why?
Char, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, Soros had control of all the electronic voting machines. He had the codes for all of them. He guaranteed Hillary that she was going to win. Guaranteed her. And they were drinking expensive wine on her plane till about 1 in the afternoon when she realized that somehow she wasn't going to win. She went berserk. They had to sedate her. But, yeah, they're all out to reduce the population. It's true. It's absolutely true.
I can't control myself. When you went berserk, they had to sedate her.
If you guys ever watched Endgame with Alex Jones, toward the end of the documentary, he takes a picture of those Georgia Guidestones. They're done in 8 languages, and he took a picture of the one in English, and the top thing on it said that they're going to reduce the world population down to under 400 million people, which is basically the United States and a couple other little countries. That's it. They want to kill us. We are useless eaters.
So there you are, Hank, in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
MZ, maybe you can check with Michael Olson and see if I heard it right. Because that was on the previous show that they talked about this Soros funding the Wuhan laboratory.
Okay.
Anyway, I'd appreciate the discussion.
Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Take
thank you.
next, and that will be, it's Rich and Ben Lomond.
Yes. About this coronavirus thing, I've looked at the statistics, and the deaths from this are well under 150,000. Now, I have in my hand the latest edition of the Santa Cruz Sentinel, and second page 2, there's a report about a Dr. Phil. He's a TV guy.
Yeah.
He points out, 45,000 people a year die from automobile accidents. 480,000 people die from cigarettes, and 360,000 people die in swimming pools. And to that, I would add, people who have cancer die by the millions, and that is supposed to be a virus in itself. So I'm wondering, why is everything being shut down? That's my question.
Because I think shutting down. Here's my theory. Shutting down the economy is pulling out all the stops for making people hate Trump and vote against him so that he doesn't get elected. He doesn't get reelected. That's my theory. It's as simple as that. I mean, it's as clear as can be.
Well, if that's the case, then something should be done. And the question is what. But, this is...
Now they're talking about mail-in ballots, which Trump himself has said, hell no. For good reason.
Well, that's because...
It looks like, hell yes, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it could be.
And if that happens, forget it. Trump will not be elected if it's mail-in ballots. That's my prediction. And I hate to say it, but I think that if the economy doesn't goes as bad as it's predicted, the people who are not political will and don't normally vote will vote, and they will vote against the sitting president, which happens to be Trump, whereas they're not normally political people. That's what concerns me. So
yeah. Well, anyway, I wanted to point that out, that something's funny here. This is, in other words, like Dr. Phil says, why not shut down all the swimming pools? So
I saw him say. Well, my answer to that question, by the way, I support what he says. He's logical, but the only thing is that swimming pools and accidents and I think cancer are not wildly contagious like this coronavirus supposedly is. I think that's the only possible answer to that. But still, it doesn't justify killing the world economy.
Right. Maybe it's contagious, but it's not deadly. That's the point.
Yeah.
It's like any other. It looks to me like it's even not even as bad as the common flu. And I heard, I think it was somebody, Tim O'Shea, said there's this test called the CSR, which, in other words, you can't really tell whether people have it or not in the first place. The only test they have is inaccurate at best.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
There
Rich.
you go.
Steve Lightfoot is on, and Steve, you're on the air. Hey, Steve. Hey, Steve. I think you're walking, and you don't even realize that you're on the air.
He probably does not.
Okay. Hang on. Here I am. Can you hear me?
Okay. All right.
Hey, you actually put me on. I thought you were just making me
I
hold.
did put you on because I know that I'm hoping that before you get to the John Lennon was killed by Stephen King person, and you're in the wind now, so we can't. You got to somehow get away from the wind so that we can hear you.
Okay, I'm away from the wind.
Okay, so go ahead and tell us what you called about.
Well, I started the headband movement. I mean the artificial homemade mask. I started that. I also started the glove movement with the gas stations giving you a glove before you grab the nozzle. And I was the first one to say it was a bioengineered weapon and I was the first, well, not the first one, but one of the foremost people to say came out of the Wuhan thing. What I think is this. You got Bill Gates looking like a tortoise trying to shrink into his shell, sitting next to his wife, and he's got all the patents on this virus and the penicillins after, and he's part of this George Soros group and whatnot. I mean, it's bizarre, and I think it is to dump Trump. I think the best thing we can do is take away all the contracts they have in China, making our masks and our personal protection equipment. Just cut it right off the bat. From now on, we're making all that stuff. Goodbye contract to China. And down the line, dismember them one piece at a time, just to undo all the work Tricky Dicky did to make them powerful to begin with.
It did start back with Nixon. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
And I'm telling you, this happened right as I was going big time with my flyer campaign and my sign campaign, going gonzo to break this story because they're about to bust me illegally for a DUI I don't deserve, to take away my van. Now that I'm energizing to break the story is when all this happens. And they are deadly afraid of this story breaking because it exposes Stephen King as a communist destroying America on purpose.
Uh-huh. Okay. All righty, Steve. Thanks for
I appreciate
calling.
you giving me the time.
You bet. Thanks for calling the Saturday Special. Next caller will be Jan in San Lorenzo Valley. What we're doing in Boulder Creek. What are you doing in Boulder Creek?
Well, I just happened to pick up Santa Cruz Mountain Bulletin, and you can get them at santacruzmountainbulletin.net. And there's an article about what's going on at 8 o'clock up here. I didn't know about it, but now I'm going to be listening for it. At 8 o'clock at night, people get out and howl. They're howling like a wolf, just to it's kind of a brotherhood kind of thing. You can't physically hug each other, but we can get out and howl and have some kind of community that way.
You
So
mean
I thought
poke your head out of the window. You don't mean go out and congregate and howl, do you?
No, just poke your head out the window and howl. And one guy in here, he says that sometimes he goes out and howls, and sometimes he goes out and just listens to the howling. So I thought I'd pass that on to people if you want to join us. And also, folks, you need to support this radio station. We need to have this station. We are so lucky in this area to have the Zwerlings supporting this station. I got to really thank you for
Well, thank you, Jan.
this
Appreciate
station.
that. I hope we can continue, you know.
Yeah,
So
people,
we
get
will
on
as
with
long
it.
as we can, that's for sure. Okay. Great. Okay, our next caller is Ed in Carmel Valley.
Howdy.
Hi, Ed.
I have a preventative for the virus that I heard from a couple of doctors that know their stuff.
Okay.
We normally have an acid stomach. Well, the virus cannot survive in an alkali environment, and you can do that by simple lemon juice in water or apple cider vinegar. Little sips of apple cider vinegar is so acidic in our stomach that it turns off our stomach acid and makes alkali environment, which the virus cannot survive.
Well, I love lemon juice and I love apple cider vinegar, and I pour both of them into my everything.
Well,
Lots of drinks. So without realizing yeah.
Even if you came across the virus, it wouldn't be able to survive in an alkali environment. And what that acidity does in your stomach is it changes it from acid to alkali. So
Well,
it's
that's nice to
preventative.
know. Yeah.
It should be told more often.
Hey, Char, that reminds me of something that Doc Wallach has been saying for years. You know, if you have acid reflux, you take more acid, not less, right?
Right. Acid reflux means you have a lack of acid, and everybody, and even Kevin Trudeau wrote it in his one of his health books. If the pH of apple cider vinegar is 4, so if you take apple cider vinegar before you eat a meal, and it helps your stomach, it helps you digest your food without getting sick. that means your pH in your stomach was above 4, and that's the problem with most people is they have too high, it's too alkaline, too lacking of acid, and you got to have acid in your stomach, or you can't digest your food.
Well, wait a minute. Isn't Ed saying the opposite of that?
Well, he's
yes.
I think he's misinformed because
you're not supposed to say that, Char Murphy. Okay, good.
But they don't know diddly squat.
Diddly squat is okay, but the other thing you said is not okay. At least.
Okay, but they don't know diddly squat. I tell you, I'll start with any doctor.
Okay.
Well, after you digest your food, we eat such heavy food that we produce a lot of heavy-duty stomach acid to digest it. But after that's done, if you take a little sip of apple cider vinegar or lemon water or baking soda, works as well. It'll change your stomach to alkali, and that's a preventative.
Well, baking soda definitely will, but apple cider vinegar in most cases, most people have such a lack of stomach acid, apple cider vinegar will increase their stomach acid.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Ed in Carmel Valley, for calling 479-1080. Just
Good
the
luck.
same.
Adios.
Okay. Thank you. Here's a phone number, but not a name. Who is this?
Yeah. Hi, Michael. This is, George and Hollister.
Oh,
and
okay.
I
Yeah.
apologize for calling a second time, but I keep forgetting to remind you of something. In the run-up to Trump's election in 2016, I can't remember the topic of this show, but I called in and we were talking about American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
And you said, yeah, we'll have to do a special on that.
Uh-huh.
I still think that's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for reminding me.
Generations don't know that it has nothing to do with the character of Americans. It has to do with the exceptional nature of our government based on the ideas of the Enlightenment. And
well, yeah, but sort of like the Communist Manifesto is an amazing document, that I read when I was in high school. In practice, it's pretty evil, because people don't practice it in its pure form. And people don't practice, look at all the corruption in our nation's capital and in all our local and state and federal governments. There's so much corruption, and I agree that our form of government is probably the best that it can be, and a lot of thought went into it, but in practice, it's been hijacked. And I don't know how to fix that. I really don't. But anyhow, I appreciate your call, and the reason you're not answering is because you're gone. So let's press next and go to the next person. Nick in Royal Oaks. Go ahead, Nick. You're on.
Thanks. I dig deep and go out of my way to come up with this, but it hasn't been said. I bet 50% of the shutdown is because the wolf pack. And this wolf pack would get infected and go down to every city council meeting and every political agent that they do not like and shake their hand.
And one thing Fauci has said that I agree with is that shaking hands should not take place. In fact, maybe they should invoke the death penalty in the future for people shaking hands with each other. What do you think, Char Murphy?
Well, I think everybody's going to have to learn to fend for themselves. And if you should wear a mask and maybe wear gloves even when you go out if you're that scared about it, All
right. Thank you, Nick in Royal Oaks. Here's Jim in Marina.
Hi. Yeah. Hi, Mike. I just wanted to respond to the alkalinization of the stomach. Everybody wonders how does a malaria drug? Malaria is a single-celled organism, protozoa, and how does that relate to defeating a virus? And I think what the gentleman was trying to trying to say is that if your pH balance is a little one way or is a little to the your blood pH is what doctors like Dr. Warburg from way back in history talking about how an alkaline balance in the blood can prevent cancer, and there's research in that area, but not necessarily in your stomach. And I think that that may be if the blood pH balance is a little unsuitable for microorganisms, it may not necessarily hurt the person, but it creates turns them into an inhospitable host. And also, I wanted to maybe Dr. Biles and Tom and anybody else out there who may be interested in continuing a program after the Saturday special. I'd be interested in talking to them to see if maybe we could all partner on something. I have some ideas of a program that might work, and if you have my telephone number there from your caller ID, you can feel free to give them my telephone number, and I'd like to talk to them.
Oh, well then hang on so I can take a photograph of it real quick here.
I also got it.
Oh, you got it also, Josh Stevens? Okay, great. Thank you. So, all right, appreciate it. Well, gee, so 479-1080 is the phone number if you want to call. There's just a few minutes left, like 6 or 7 minutes left. So this is your last chance to talk.
The last dance, in other words.
Yeah, the last dance. So, Char, what's going to happen? Is yours a liberal state? So they largely, or the majority loves this female governor of yours?
No, I don't think so. I think it's changed a lot since the car industry kind of went to hell. And like I said, I got friends that are like me, worked at General Motors, and is a longtime Democrat, and he feels the same way about Trump. We all pretty much, I think there's a lot more support for him than people realize, because I don't answer polls or put signs up in my yard or anything. How I vote is my business and nobody else's. But he is trying to drain the swamp, and I pray that he makes it. Right now, the government is making documentaries to put on TV and stuff to educate us about what really goes on behind the scenes. Did you know the CIA writes scripts for movies because they're brainwashing us? And all this is going to start coming out. Trump is exposing a lot of stuff that people never knew. Operation Paperclip, Operation Mockingbird, Montauk, all this stuff. Like the CIA started after the Second World War, all these nasty German people that experimented on these twins and stuff, remember, in Germany? They gave them new names and they brought them to the United States, and that's how the CIA started. It was a rogue, evil organization from the beginning. And George Bush Sr. was the head of the CIA, and so he was also the head of the largest drug cartel in the world. And if you watch that movie American Made with Tom Cruise, it's the story of Barry Seal, who really lived. I got a book about him. And the CIA bought the Mena Airport in Barry Seal's name, so they wouldn't have dirt, so they couldn't be traced back to them. So it's so bad, and this is what Trump is trying to expose. Epstein apparently blackmailed so many people in the government, Democrats and Republicans, mostly Democrats. They say 80% of our government is being blackmailed. They get them in pictures and shit, and excuse me. Anyway, they get them pictures and stuff of them in compromising positions, and they blackmail them. So if 80% of our Senate and House are being blackmailed by people like Epstein, we don't really have a government. And this is all supposed to be cleaned out. The swamp is supposed to be cleaned out, and this is part of the swamp, all these people that are being blackmailed. So it's all over the internet. It's something you can look up. Anybody wants to look it up. And I would suggest, if you really want to find the truth, go to Restored Republic with Judy Byington, and there's all kinds of information. She gathers information. Her passion is she wrote a book about a girl that was tortured by the CIA, Jenny Hill. They said 22 personalities, 22 faces of Jenny Hill, how they torture them, and they fractionate their personalities into multiple personalities. It's all evil stuff that they do, and her passion is to expose all that.
All right.
But
all right. Well, so we got 3 or 4 people online here. I don't know whether we'll get to all of them, but we're going to try. Arthur in Prunedale, quick.
Hi, MZ. Yes,
hey.
I know in the past you've raised money from specific shows that have asked for monthly or one-time contributions. Yeah. Now, I had a favorite show on your station. I sent $50 one time, and then soon after that, well, yeah, you're welcome. But soon after that, the show went off the air. I think the shows that are popular should ask for contributions, sort of like a subscription basis. And people like the show, let them help you out. That's what I want to say.
Patreons.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Now, Patreon, I don't think so, Josh. I'll tell you that later. But here, let's hear Rich and Salinas validate Trump. Go ahead, Rich and Salinas.
Yeah. Char's got it exactly right. What Trump's planning on doing is going to the gold standard. And what he did with the Fed, taking all this debt he's been buying up, is he basically made the Fed a partner with the Treasury, and he is becoming the head of the chairman of the board of the Fed at this point. So he calls the shots. He'll get rid of the Fed, and he's got the third position on all these debt, which means the 2 people in first, second position, like mortgages. You know, if he bails, all of it goes away, and everybody loses their money. All this debt goes away if he does that. But what he's going to do, I sent you some videos on this too. Bill Still, I sent one in particular. What Bill Still says he's going to do is he's going to, $1 at a time, replace the Fed money with the red dot number, the Kennedy money with the red dots. So as Fed money comes in, he replaces it. Treasury prints red dots, moves on.
Yeah.
Baking soda will work simple. Raises your level up to alkaline out of acidic, and it smothers it just like water on a regular fire. You don't have anything going. It'll kill anything that's going on in your body. I've been taking it for 10 years.
I wish we were doing a 4th hour, but we're not. We're 30 seconds from the end of this program. I want to thank, apologies to anybody on hold we haven't been able to get to. Thank you, Char Murphy. Always great to talk to you. Happy your hearing is coming back. And that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. See you next week.